So Gen Con 2023 was so much fun, and we did so much that we are breaking this into multiple parts, so here's part 2.
Yep, so let's go back in time and take a look at Gen Con 2023. Welcome to Wisco Dice! Hey yo folks, I am your host, the Conesy with the Most, and I am joined today by...
Hey, I'm Suzanne.
And today we're going to take our part 2 look back and review at Gen Con 2023. Most of the stuff we did, things we checked out, we just chatted forever when we did the original take for this. So instead of releasing a 2-hour video, that we try to split this up into parts that are a little more manageable for folks. So this is our part 2. But before we get started and dive into part 2, what should folks do?
Oh, Conesy, they definitely should subscribe and also like this video if you're enjoying kind of our convention recaps, so we know to continue making content like this.
And of course, what we really want to see is you taking the time to click down there in the comment section and type up what your experiences were at Gen Con 2023. Or, well, if you weren't at the show, let us know what you found most interesting that you've heard since the show was finished, wrapped up, in the comments below. But with that, let's dive into our Gen Con 2023 look back and review.
What did you do then on day 3, which is Friday?
So Friday, again, I'm running ticketed events, but this time I'm running events to promote the Batman miniature game. So last year and the year before, I was disappointed that Night Models didn't have any presence at the con. No booth, no product, no anything. Previous years, like in 2019 might have been the last year, they would have a special Gen Con promo model, and Miniature Market would have a huge chunk of the Night Models product in their booth. And so there was good representation for Night Models in the exhibit hall. People could see the product, people could buy the product. I'm sure lots of product actually got purchased from Miniature Market, so it was good for them as well. But for whatever reason, COVID happened and Miniature Market has pretty much quit carrying the Night Models product. I've heard that they maybe are going to get back into it. I don't know. Needless to say, since COVID and since Gen Con came back from that, there hasn't been Night Models representation. Well, it's my favorite miniature game by far right now, and and whether it has whatever problems it has, it is absolutely my favorite. Partially because the models are absolutely gorgeous, right?
It's also my favorite too, by the way.
Well, I mean, you really want to play Malifaux. I mean, you might change your tune.
It's the only one I'm currently playing, so.
I mean, you have models for Malifaux, so
yes.
You may change your tune when you play Malifaux. I don't know. We'll find out.
Just putting it out there that right now it's my favorite.
So I was very convinced last year that we were going to have BMG at Gen Con, and so I've been working with also I'm a member of the Night Model Sidekick program. So this year I ran 2 games, and I worked with another sidekick, Jason, who ran all of our Learn to Play events. So my events were, I had 2 of these, the BMG Big Game, which were big 8-player team. I mean, I ended up structuring it as like a team game, so each player had either a villain, some models from a villain crew or a hero crew, and we went, and it was a slightly modified Batman 3rd edition rule set, but everything, like the full feel of the game, the mechanics of the game, moving models, attacking, special actions, working with suspect markers, all of that happened. And then Jason did full Learn to Plays with like 250-ish rep crews, and then he brought in a bunch of extra models. He brought a full table of terrain for that Learn to Play event. It was absolutely great. We had an absolute blast teaching all these people about Batman, and then we did a big BMG giveaway at 5 o'clock, which was the end time for final events for BMG that day, and gave away a ton of dead shots and other product for all these people who had been ticketed for our events through the day. We gave away one of the new hard to get limited or Batmatch Samurai Batmans, which both Jason and I were like very envious because neither of us have that model yet, and we both really want it. So that was really good. I had an absolute blast. And then while I was doing all that, you did a bunch of stuff. You were all over the place.
I was. I went back and forth to Lucas Oil
a couple of times.
Almost 3 times. I think was what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
Not trying to, but I started off the day with some play testing again, and that was great. And I got a play test with some interesting people that we had great discussions about. We were playing as Gods of Weather. It was a card game, and I know this one has a name, but the name did not stick in my head because I think it was written down a couple different ways as they were trying to finalize the name. So that was a real neat game, and again, this designer had a very specific area that he was looking for feedback on. It was kind of the instruction / player aid type information. So that was nice when I was play testing. It wasn't just, hey, what do you think about the game? This was far enough along also where, what are you going to do? So you are a little bit like rock, paper, scissors or Rochambeau, where you are using hand signals to see what's going to trump, what's going to beat another hand signal. This is like different weather events you're flipping, and you're trying to create storms and such. So that was pretty cool. And then I went and donated blood, which I've been initially told when I was asking that it was over in ICC in the convention center. And then past years had been in Lucas Oil, but hey, I was being told that, so I wasn't sure. I went there, fought through the crowds, waiting to get into the vendor hall at 10 a.m. And they said, oh no, this is just where you register. So I hiked back over to Lucas Oil again, went up. My fear of heights almost had me turning around because you are going up one set of escalators, which is fine, and then another set, and all you see is like nothing on either side of you.
Yeah, it is worth noting. Like, Gen Con took advantage of all of the space in Lucas Oil this year.
Yeah.
So not only like the below the field level, like where the True Dungeon and some other some other big meeting rooms and whatnot are at, but then the field level. But they actually took full advantage of the whatever next level above that, the concourse level. Yeah.
Well, and then this was way up. This was the high level, just way open, way up. I mean, I'm going up the second set of escalators, and there's a big gap, and then you have the big window for like Lucas Oil that you see on the outside, and on the other side there's like a big gap, and you just see nothing. So I clearly have a fear of heights, but I closed my eyes, made it to the top, donated blood.
It was a record year for donations.
Oh yeah,
wasn't it?
I forget what the amount was, but yes, it was. They way surpassed, like more than tripled, I think, what their donations normally are. And it was just lines of all the donation chairs were full the entire time I was there, and people were waiting, and they had a smooth operation, but people just kept coming. So
I mean, that's definitely an important thing to kind of know. Like, there's a lot of charity, and a lot of that kind of thing,
giving back how you can
in gaming as a whole. But and I know it's Gen Con and you want to be there and focus on like it, and it's expensive, right, for all of us to go. But doing something like that and being part of that,
taking an hour out of your day,
just to help doing something to help give back to the con, to help somebody else's experience, or to just help somebody else is, I think, really important. So, like, for me, I was giving back to the con by running events and making sure other con goers had a really good time. You gave blood. It was, definitely something that I think in the future is really important to us and important to our con going experience no matter what con we go to.
Yeah, and it honestly, I mean, it's like you just sit there and you are relaxing for the hour that you're there, and it's
off your feet.
You're off your feet. Your feet are definitely raised up, and I don't know, the people that were working for the company, they were great. They were a lot of fun. They were clearly enjoying what they were doing. and stuff. So after that, then I had to book it over to back to Hall D in the convention center. So like almost as far as I could go from where I was. I did make it down the escalators with my eyes shut again. And played Be Hexed by Smirk and Dagger. So did a ticketed demo of that. And
how was that game?
The group of guys that I was playing with, it's a 5-player game. They were a ton of fun. They, like, everyone understood that this game was you're kind of attacking other people, had like a lot of player interaction. And so you're kind of ganging up on others at times. And so everyone got that. We were laughing. We were having fun that way. The game itself, it was described by the demoer as kind of hot potato with cards. And it definitely felt like that. You're just trying to kind of keep pushing this token away from you so you don't end up with it and become behexed. It's not a game for me. It's, I don't know. It was lacking something. Like, you can kind of plan it out. You can do your stuff. But a lot of it is just pure chance if it's going to come to you, and if you're going to do something. It's also very easy to unintentionally exclude someone from really participating in a round. Also, like, you could just kind of keep pushing the hex back to, you know, a specific person, and then, you know, it just, we unintentionally did that to one of the guys, and he was chatting the whole time. I don't think he realized until we were like, oh my gosh, he didn't play any cards this round. I'd play it again if someone really, really wanted to, but I'm not going to go out of my way to find that they hexed. So, but that was pretty much...
It's an important part of doing demos.
Yeah,
occasionally you run into a game you don't like.
Yeah, which, I mean, and I'm really glad I did the demo. That's one of the things I enjoy at Gen Con is demoing games. Mm-hmm. Because then I see what I do like or don't like. Because reading this, I was like, oh, the description sounds good. I think I might like this game. It's not. It's not. It's a game that I would have bought, played once, and then it would have sat on the shelf until
I mean, I think this is a game that I heard a lot about from the con. I bet you a bunch of people are really enjoying it. We actually really like Smirk and Dagger for a number of other games. Just this game just happened to not be for you.
Three of the 5 of us were really enjoying the game and wanting to get the game and buy it and everything else.
Perfect. I mean,
it was totally worth it, and it's great to see how others interact with this game and enjoy the game and just appreciate different gaming styles and interests for people. So
yeah, after that we were pretty much done.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, one of the things, like, the BMG demos, like, the day before, at least I was on, like, that plastic floor, which was much more forgiving on your knees. With the Batman miniature stuff, I was on concrete floor at the front of Lucas Oil, standing, and I had to stand a lot.
Yeah.
Plus, with the exhaustion and soreness of a day previous of racking up a ridiculous amount of steps and walking, for a person like me that doesn't do a whole lot. I was just physically at my limits.
Yeah.
And you were pretty much there too.
I came over to meet you at Lucas Oil, and
you know, it was
sat there and, well, who do we get to run into while we were there?
So they actually messaged us, the G3 boardroom guys.
Yes.
So
great group of guys.
Two of the 3 of them started messaging me while they were looking for, because they thought I was out on Lucas Oil, and they were looking for me out on Lucas Oil.
And you had just left.
And I had just wrapped up and packed up my game from Lucas Oil, and we were sitting on the concourse, the main concourse, just relaxing at a table before we were, and we were grabbing like some beverages, and you were grabbing a bite to eat and whatnot.
Yeah.
So we got to hang out and talk with the G3 boardroom guys. They're another YouTube channel. If you like watching playthroughs and of games where the outcome is not preset or determined at the beginning, and they're not necessarily always playing the hottest games or the hottest titles. They're playing games that people like us play games. You definitely should check out their channel. I've watched a number of their videos, and absolutely had a laugh or had a laugh with them as they're playing their game and doing gotcha. And you can definitely see the friendly competition between all three of them.
Oh yeah.
So great group of friends.
So we got to talk to them and meet them in real life. So that was really nice and was kind of a good end to the gaming social portion of our Friday nights.
Yeah.
Because we were just wiped. Ben had like little to no voice, so we headed back to the hotel. Got there, grabbed some food, and then basically we're just done for. Crashed.
Yeah. Took advantage again of that executive lounge privilege to grab food. I think that was about. I mean, I was not.
And that's
like, at
about
that point,
all we could handle at that point. I think even ordering.
I couldn't.
Again,
this was another day. At least I got to go to the bathroom during the day because Jason was there at the same tables, so I had somebody to kind of cover for me.
Yeah.
And he had built-in breaks in his day. He had 30 minutes between demo or learn to play events.
Maybe we'll do that for you next year.
Yeah, we've got a better strategy next year. Trust me.
Part of Gen Con is it just keeps evolving our strategies for the next year. So.
But so, anyways, yeah. By the time I sat down at the executive lounge and had my plate of food, I couldn't talk. I didn't realize I was hungry until that first bite, and then I couldn't stop. Like I've never experienced this thing in my life before where I couldn't shove the food in fast enough. I'm sure I was absolutely gross to watch. Like I'm sure it was
okay.
It was I felt like I was like in competitive eater mode, just like
you were just
like Cookie Monster, crumbs flying everywhere, food debris. I think that's the way I felt.
I don't think you were understanding or hearing because I ended up asking questions and there was no answer, no response. The only way I knew
that's a sure sign that I was done.
But anyway, so that was our Friday, and then we headed into day 4, Saturday. Which was a difference than the other last 2 days.
It was great finishing up BMG the previous day because that was the last committed event that I was running, right? Yep. Now I was going to go into, I'm an attendee at Gen Con mode. I'm going to enjoy Gen Con and do events, and I have no pressure to do anything besides just enjoy myself.
Yep. So what did we do? We did things together. We spent most of Saturday together, actually.
Yeah, which is our more traditional historical Gen Cons together, right? Yeah. So my friend Jason, who has been on a few of the Tales of the Cold North podcasts, he's part of our D&D group. I played board games with him for years. He's huge into True Dungeon. And so usually he's the one organizing True Dungeon runs for himself and the group of us as friends. And this year for True Dungeon, they had a new event, which was just 4 rooms. And if you've not experienced True Dungeon, it's basically like a live action escape room / with actors, and they have some mechanisms that they use to do kind of a fantasy role play dungeon crawl. You don't have to really be a role player or anything. No. Like you're not a role player. Because it's also like that escape room aspect. So the puzzles, you have to solve puzzles if the room's a puzzle room. And if it's a combat room, you have like little puck sliders you'll slide that simulate the dice rolls and whatnot. Yeah, you have your little tests depending on your character. Yeah, depending on the types of things you're going to do.
So it's a little bit difficult to describe at times, but it is really neat, and it's a cool thing to do with a group of friends. Absolutely. To go through. It's kind of feels like a little bit of a team building exercise you may do at work, but 100 times better.
I absolutely love True Dungeon. It's gotten pretty expensive, but this year True Dungeon had a event that was you only got the tokens.
You got a sealed pack of tokens.
And you could swap tokens with anybody else that's in the same run as you, but that's it. It's the only tokens you got to use in the run. Right. And
so there was no super tricked out characters or anything like that.
And talking about tokens, because that's another concept here that's, if you haven't done True Dungeon before, all of the equipment, like if you're, your armor, your weapons, your potions, your scrolls, all of that equipment is represented by these little round, like
They're like poker
chip
chips.
tokens.
Yeah.
And so you outfit your characters with various gear. And so we were all like in the room. Like it was awesome. It was like that first time I did True Dungeon again, and you never got that real experience.
Nope.
So this was your kind of first time getting that experience
made
too.
For me and upper level with that.
Yep. So it was your first time getting that experience as well. And then we had Matt and Robin and Josa that were there. They all got, this was their first time experiencing True Dungeon, which I think Robin really enjoyed it. I could kind of tell, like, she was really getting into it. And I think the DMs kind of fed off some of that energy as we went from room
because
to room.
you can, like, play into the DM, like, what their character is. And they do a great job staying in character and following along with whatever script.
If there's like that final room, not to give too much away, but the final room we went into, there was a monster, and monster was definitely an actor in like a full costume, right? And so you could interact with that, like, and we were fighting that monster. So if you wanted to like jazz him on and maybe get the monster to attack you, you could really interact with that actor and pick on him or call him names or whatever, and then that monster would interact with you, right?
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun to do that. I mean, I actually walked away and I was like, oh, I wish there would have been one more room, because it was only 4 rooms. Normally a True Dungeon run is 7 rooms that you go, and it's a mix of puzzle and combat rooms. This one was only 4. This was it was half and half, 4 rooms, 2 combat, 2 puzzle, with the final room being a combat room, which was awesome. Nothing too crazy. Everything was linked together with a little story.
Yeah,
it was
it was easier to follow the story in the shorter rooms. It was a much more condensed storyline,
and I think they tried to emphasize story, and the puzzles weren't horrifically complex.
No,
the ship one was really cool. You had to like navigate the ship through
through mines.
Through like mines to get it to land at an island in the center of the board, and you all had to like ropes that you were pulling the ship variously to get it there, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And then
the other one was like
the giant animatronic like ogre or whatever that was, that room, like for that first combat room. Like honestly, I feel like that should have been the final combat room, because that was by far my favorite like room from a combat perspective that we got to experience. I don't even remember. Oh, the second puzzle was I didn't get.
Second puzzle was word association puzzle. So
Which
I don't want to give away too much on what it was, but it's a nice fun non-board gaming experience. I did learn that I need to memorize my different types of leaves a little bit better in case.
Well, you were playing the druid,
which I've never played before, so all leaves kind of start looking the same after.
And we all did the run at like at the normal, because there's different levels of difficulty. So we all did since we were all playing at kind of the same level, and none of us had done it before. We played at the normal difficulty, which is kind of the beginner level difficulty. Like there is a lower level of difficulty than normal. But it was all
that's like if you're doing like the run with
that's if you can't die. Like there's no way that you can die
if you're just doing it. But
the lower level.
I like the 4-room.
Death in True Dungeon can suck a bunch if you die like 2 or 3 rooms before the end, because you can't participate.
Right. Then you're just kind of walking.
Then you're just sitting there. You get to see everything, but you can't do anything, which sucks.
Yes.
I know this from personal experience because I have died. Or I guess I got turned to stone, which is basically the same thing, unless somebody can turn you back from being stoned. So this was a really good experience. And then afterwards, because it was we bought all 10 tickets, because there's 10 people max you can take on a True Dungeon ticket. Jason had bought all 10 tickets, and all 10 of us were all people we knew from like the Madison area or like through friends.
Yeah, which I think does help.
We all ended up kind of, most of us anyways, I think, all ended up sitting together for lunch at the food trucks right afterwards. Hey, it made sense. And we hit the food trucks at just the right time.
Right before the lunch rush.
The lunch rush. Like and that is a definite recommendation. If you want like to avoid some of the lines, if you want to avoid like food truck lines, don't go at noon or when the standard time, you want to go a little early, maybe 10:30. Like, the exhibit hall is going to be hammered at 10 a.m. And people are going to be in that exhibit hall from 10 to 11 for sure. That's where they're going to be. Hit the food trucks at that time instead if there's not a game that you're running to go get.
I will say...
Or actually, do not run.
I will say, though, that even though we were early for, like, the food truck long lines, that Island Noodles line...
was ridiculous.
Oh, my gosh.
Like that, every time I went by there, it was ridiculous.
Like, there was, like... Maybe you had 5 people waiting.
There's a billion other food
trucks
with no lines darn near.
That are moving fast, and then there's this Island Noodles line, which had
crazy.
to be a couple hours long because it was snaking around.
Just crazy, yep, absolutely.
But,
I'm sure it wasn't that long because they do pump out food pretty fast, but
yeah, but still, it was too long for me when I'm hungry and there's other options.
I finally got my lobster roll from Naughty Lobster, though.
You did.
That was so good. It's expensive, like. It is probably one of the most expensive food truck items you can get. But I love lobster rolls, and being here in Wisconsin, I don't even know of a place here nearby that I can go get. I can go order one. Like,
I don't know that there are.
I don't know that there is one in Madison.
If you're
Maybe
in
there is.
Wisconsin and you know where we can get one, let us know.
But even then, like, it's Wisconsin, so it's the lobster shipped in. It's probably frozen,
frosted. Yep.
So
I guess
this is my, like, once a year I get to experience it because unless we go out to Boston to see your brother. So
yeah, but after we did that, Conesy and I went and played a game called Dwellings of Eldervale, which he had played before, but I had not, and it was great. Like, it was a wonderful experience to demo it. It was not the full game. They had done some things to shorten it, but you got the game experience. We had someone had forgotten the tickets for the event in our hotel room.
Oh man, this is a kicker too. So because this is a free event, right? So there's no charge to play in this event. I forgot the tickets. So I told Suzanne, you just go find a place to go sit in halls A through D. It's my fault. I'll walk back to the hotel room to get the ticket. So I walk all the way to the hotel room, all the way back, putting on all those extra steps, and I'm in a rush, right? Because I'm worried. Like we had plenty of time.
We had time, but we didn't have time. Like we had like an hour.
Yeah, so instead of having 30 to 40 minutes for me, because I have spent basically 0 time in the exhibit hall at this point.
Yeah.
So instead of having 30 minutes or so of time to go dive into the exhibit hall, I'm rushing up to the hotel room, get the tickets, get back. The guy's like, yeah, we give ticketed people preference, but if you don't have a ticket and there's space, we just let you play because this is a no cost event. I'm like, that's great. I'm glad. I mean, we had the tickets, so for sure made sure we had our seats, and I think there were probably some empty. Actually, I don't know if there were any empty seats.
No empty seats.
They were running like 3 or 4 of these games at once, because you were there so early, you got basically the full teach from the guy.
Yeah, he was like, he had his other games were going, and he wasn't doing much, and he was going to set up the game that we were going to play, and so he taught me the game in quite good detail for 3/4 of the game. And then everyone else comes. And he's setting up the other table, too, because he's demoing, too. And what does he do? He says, hey, I taught you the game. You go and teach it.
Yep. So you taught the game. And you did a good job because everybody understood. I mean, the play rate is really good for this game.
The play rate is great. There's not, once you get the basics down, there's not too much. It's just more, hey, what are the end game triggers and doing the end game scoring. And a little bit of the battles, but I do enjoy teaching games, and that was kind of fun to realize how much I could understand, and it was great that everyone else at the table was so accepting of me trying to teach the game that I had just learned without actually seeing a rule book.
Dwellings of Eldervale, for those of you that haven't been introduced to this game, it is a worker placement / territory control game where you're kind of vying. You're trying to place your dwellings or upgrade your core worker to dwellings, but you have other types of workers like wizards and dragons. On the
meeple to turn him into a hut.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And then all the meeples have like this really nice little silk screened art on them, so you can tell like the dragon really looks like a dragon, the workers look like workers, the knight looks like a knight. Yes, there's dice chucking for resolving the combats, and apparently I had absolutely the best luck at combat.
Oh my
dice.
gosh, he was just
like
to
the point that everybody
give it to Ben.
Like to the point that like everybody, for fairness, just started making me when the monsters were on the table or when the monsters were engaged. Yeah. They just made me roll the dice for them, so it felt like it was even. I don't know, or whatever. Like, it was fine.
Yeah.
So I was rolling really hot though.
He was.
I did not lose a combat till like the last fight of the game.
Yeah, and I'll say for an area control game, it didn't feel like you had no chance. Like, it was an area control game where you had a control area, but it wasn't the end of the world if you died in a combat.
No.
Or if you lost an area that you were controlling. It just kind of like everything kept turning over.
Not
during
to mention
the game,
you have the like the NPC monsters that are also interacting with you and fighting, potentially
and they're
fighting
coming after you or running away from you, and I think the guy who won or was doing really well.
You tied for the win.
Yeah, that's right. I did tie for the win. He got more points of the cards in his hand that he had to if he was dying. Like, so if the more combats he lost, the better he was doing. So It was like, all right.
And I was happily obliging by like slaughtering him.
Yeah.
Quite often. So
we did that, and then I went to rest up for our evening, but you went and took a.
So you gave me your ticket for Artemis console.
Yeah.
Now Artemis is from the Artemis series of games is from Grand Gamers Guild, and you introduced me to Artemis Project 2019 Gen Con.
2019, it was the game I wanted to go see.
So
this was a game to sign the box.
Yep. So that is a dice worker placement game that I've reviewed on Conesy's Diary. We've also got a review on the blog, I believe, for that game.
We play it a lot.
I really like it.
You backed the expansions.
Yep, I backed the expansions. We actually talked about that, I think, on episode 113. And I haven't had a chance to play yet Artemis
Odyssey, which I have played with our daughter and another friend.
So they're kind of developing this like sci-fi setting now.
Yeah, this setting with all the games all have different mechanics though.
So Artemis console, there was no BGG listing, no anything, but it was Artemis. It was another Artemis game from Grand Gamers Guild. So I was really excited to see what this was. Maybe this is some new hot release that they're releasing at Gen Con that they didn't know. So there was very little
nothing
information.
About it.
Only information in the event description. Turns out this was a playtest that they were running at the Grand Gamers Guild little area in Hall like D or whatever.
Yeah, Hall D.
And so it was me and one other person that actually showed up for it, who was a really cool dude from Chicago. I forget his name. We chatted a bunch about Adepticon and miniatures and 40K and stuff long before we got going, because we were waiting for two other people that didn't arrive. But then we ended up playing a 2-player version of Artemis Console. Now, Artemis Console is you're trying to match patterns, and you're building the map and you're matching patterns, and this game can be as interactive as you want or not, because you're placing blocks that represent places where your agents are, or where maybe you're influencing things, or whatever you want to think of it as, with these different factions, and the tiles all represent usually like 2 factions on each tile that the map has. So where these factions have presence. And then you have like your home base tile. And so you're connecting everything back to your home base, or you can use your opponent's home base to match things up for scoring cards that are in your hand. And the best part of this game, absolutely by far, was trying to maneuver your little cubes so that you could match as many of the patterns for the scoring cards that you had in your hand. Absolutely. I really, really liked that part. Now, there's asymmetry in the player powers. So each player has a unique power. I had the player power that every time you earned money from doing one of the round scoring things. So there are also these rounds every round. The game timer is like this stack of like 11 cards, and they basically represent events that happen each round. And so I had an ability that when the event allowed you to earn money, I got a bonus money once per round. Well, that meant because money is hard to come by and is really the only resource in the game, I had a pretty easy access to gaining money, and gaining money lets you buy additional scoring cards, lets you take additional actions, lets you do a whole bunch of stuff. So because I had extra money, in my opponent's player power, well, it was pretty decent. It didn't get triggered as many times as mine did. Like basically almost the entire round deck was the round event deck, or the events. Like 9 of the 11 cards had earning money on them, right? So I basically got to do my thing like 9 times. So that's 9 extra money over the course of the game. That's a big factor, right? And it ended up, like, the game was actually, from a score-wise, was much closer. Like, we were within, like, 4 points. But at the end, like, my feedback was, if I had realized at the beginning how strong my ability was going to be in generating money and being able to generate additional actions, I would have been far more aggressive at removing my opponent's cubes from the board to try to force them, because they would have removed, like, you're only able to do 2 cubes on the board, either moving them or adding them to the board each round for free. After that, it costs you a money for each additional one. You have like 5 cubes or something like that. If I would have been aggressive and been placing my cubes where my opponent was and removing their cubes early in the game, it would have really slowed down their ability to be active and score. And I didn't see that or understand it right away at the beginning, but it would have been a really miserable game experience if I would have played very aggressively for my opponent right off the bat. As it turns out, we kind of both played very non-aggressively and just kind of went our separate ways on the board and kind of just did our own thing. And it was very, very enjoyable doing that. I think the game wants you to be more aggressive. But at the same time, like, if I would have been with that player power, it would have been a miserable experience for my opponent.
Yeah, and I think it's hard with some games the first time you are playing them and not knowing anything about them to be aggressive if there are other avenues that you can see what's going to happen. Because if you're aggressive, you don't always know how it's going to turn out or anything.
Usually aggression in board games, when it means you're playing an attacker and you're the first attacker, it means you're going to be down some resources, because combat usually is pretty brutal in games. So, and then you're down some resources, and then now you're vulnerable for player 3 or 4, right? Yeah. That's usually what ends up in the games, at least in my experience. So,
see, yeah. I should have just not taken a nap and fallen asleep at our evening activity, potentially, and come and play, because especially when I'm trying out a game for the first time, if there's an attacky component and I want to see what's going to happen, I will attack. But anyway, after you were doing that and I met you down there, we got a little bit of time to walk through the vendor hall.
Yeah, we did.
And who did we see?
We did go. We made a point to go see Thunderworks games, which was actually close to halls A through D. Yeah, on that side of the room, and we chatted with Keith and Claire. Yes. Over at Thunderworks, Keith being one of the owners, or the owner of Thunderworks Games, and Claire is his wife, who's also, I think, in charge of marketing now.
Oh, I had a lovely chat with them.
Yeah. We talked almost nothing related to board games, but I will say, like, their newest game, Thunderworks' the newest game, which is just went through the crowdfunding cycle. I think it ended right before Gen Con. Stone Spire Architects. That game looks awesome. If you're looking for the next game, this is from the same designer that did Cartographers. So this one's going to be kind of a dungeon building game. Instead of drawing a map, you're going to be placing cards that are going to represent dungeon rooms. So in Stone Spire Architects, it's the same kind of theme as Cartographers, because it has this mechanic of building something and you're creating something, but instead of having a flip and write, it's going to have more components, more cards that represent. It's going to be a card-driven game.
Yep.
I'm super stoked for it.
All of their games have similar iconography or like in that role player universe a lot of times, but the mechanics of them all seem very different and unique. So I'm excited to see what they're bringing out for this game.
I'm really excited for this game, and I think I got a ticket to actually play it at GameWillCon coming up here in tail end of October.
I did not get one.
So if I can't convince Keith to get us a play before then, because he's right here in Madison as well, we'll get a chance to play it. But we ended up chatting about like model railroading, and you were chatting with Claire about crafting, and it was totally not a like, hey, we're talking about games or anything conversation.
But it was still
great to see Keith and Claire.
Yeah, it was nice to run
Kirk,
into them and
I should say Kirk. I think Kirk Dennison was there as well. Yeah. So the whole Thunderbird.
He was busy demoing games.
Yeah, we tried to make sure we weren't interrupting anything from a sales or business perspective, because we were just there to, hey, we could stop by your offices and talk to you anytime, but I just wanted to make sure we stopped by and say hi.
Yeah, and check out their booth, which was,
we wandered over and had a quick chat with a sophisticated Cerberus crew as well.
Yeah,
for a real quick say hi.
What else did we do though on Saturday? What did we do Saturday evening?
Well, Saturday evening we went to Gamers Live.
Yes.
Yeah, so
this is our tradition.
Some of the like who we talked to when at what booth in the exhibit hall, because I didn't get in the exhibit hall till Saturday, and it was really rush, because we only had about 45 minutes or so in there. So I was really rushed with my exhibit hall time on Saturday, but so it's a little bit of a blur what we did when. But Gamers Live, which the gamers are I got introduced to the gamers through their second movie, which was Darkness Rising, which, in my opinion, is the absolute best movie they've ever done. It is they're retelling an RPG game that has them flipping from their real lives and what's at the table as actors to their in-game personas, which there's a lot of inside, everybody who's ever played an RPG has probably experienced many of the things that they had and that they related in Darkness Rising. But it's one of my favorite gaming movies that actually I think captures what gaming really is.
And that's a little bit how they approach the Gamers Live show that we keep going and seeing. So they introduced it and they're coming and playing their role-playing game in someone's, the host's basement, and they're moving. Every time the bell dings, they're moving from the table to being the in-game character or back.
Yep.
So it's humorous for those of us that don't play RPGs too.
And it's all improv. There's a loose idea of what the scenario is going to be and some beats that they're going to try to hit, but it's all improv and crowd interactions.
Yes. Which is hilarious, seeing them, if you're one of the VIPs that, if you buy the extra
you can buy an expensive ticket, which lets you have the ability to have more interaction, or to potentially even be brought up on stage.
Yeah, for us, it's at the end of our day. Usually, it has been on Fridays. This year it was on a Saturday, and it's just nice to sit and relax and be entertained.
So nice to just sit and relax, laugh.
Yep.
Enjoy ourselves. We actually sit a little bit further to the back, so it's not, we just grab a seat. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, they have big screens, so even if you can't see, I couldn't see the stage right in front of me very well, but they have it on two screens exactly what's going up on stage, so I could just look at one of those.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter if you're short like me.
And most importantly, it's off your feet, which
at that point in the convention,
you've racked up miles and miles of hiking. Even if you weren't trying, you've hacked up miles of hiking on your feet, mostly on concrete or carpeted floors that are on top or over the top of concrete.
13 to 15,000 steps a day, and I did not feel like I was walking all that much. I was just going.
All right, so that was a lot of stuff we did. We want to just let you know that this is just part 2. Part 3 will be coming out soon on the channel. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Click that bell to make sure you get notified when part 3 comes out, as well as leave a like. And of course, we'd love to hear what you did at Gen Con in the comments below. Until we get to part 3, thanks for going on this journey with us. Appreciate it. We wanted to try to give Gen Con the full justice. It's the biggest show of the year, the biggest convention, and we did so much fun stuff. And I think we still missed going through the pictures and doing this edit. We still missed some of the wonderful games that we got to demo and try out and things we got to do at the show. But we'd have an extra 2 hours of video if we included everything we did. So thanks for watching. We'll catch up with you next time on part 3 of our Gen Con recap and review. Hey there, it's Conesy. Thank you so much for watching. We put out videos weekly here at Wisco Dice. Check out our channel for more great videos and don't forget to subscribe. We also have more great content on our website at wiscodice.com. Of course, we do this all for you, the viewers, so please like the video if you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.